Welcome to New Life Live with host and founder of New Life Ministries, Stephen Arterburn. For 35 years, New Life has been transforming lives one at a time thanks to the giving hearts of you, our listeners. Our goal is to provide you with wisdom from God's Word to give you hope and help in life's hardest places. If you have a question you'd like to ask today, our phone lines are open. Call 1-800-229-3000. That number again is 1-800-229-3000. Now here's Steve.
Well, hello, everybody. It's Becky Brown, and I am joined by Dr. Alice Benton and Chris Williams in California. Hi, you guys.
Hey, you too.
Good to see you guys.
Happy Friday.
Yes,
it's Friday, and we're so excited because we're going to get ready to do Lose It for Life, and it is next Saturday, and I want you to hear a conversation that Steve had with a past attendee. So, Terry Mack, if you'll roll that.
I went to Lose It for Life back in April.
Yeah.
I'm knocking at 60 pounds right now.
Oh, my goodness.
Knocking at the door. I haven't quite lost the 60 pounds. I'm kind of at a plateau, which I don't want it to discourage me, but I'm telling you, God is on the move.
Oh, that's so great. But let me ask you this. How do you feel inside as you're going through all that? Is that different?
Oh, you know, I've had a lot of people say to me, and I'm encouraging other women along the way, it's why is it different this time? Because I've tried my whole life. Why is it different this time? And I just have to say that you know, Lose It for Life, it was crucial for me because there were many it's in my life.
Yeah. Right.
And the stubborn resistance was a big one for me.
Ooh, yeah.
And
yeah.
And there was an angry brother that hadn't spoken to me in 5 years.
Oh, my goodness.
I realized that was holding, there was a hold on me that I didn't even realize until God revealed it that weekend. I'm telling you, God is on the move. So it's good stuff.
I tell you, it is pretty amazing to hear that transition, but also it's the it. And so many people struggle with understanding the connection between food and the stuff that they're carrying around or the stuff that they're feeding, right? Or the things that they're feeding. You know, you guys, you both have helped so many people over the years. What are some of the it's that people carry around with them thinking that, oh, it'll just go away on its own?
That testimony pointed it out so well, because when it's physical weight we're struggling with, there's a hidden, an invisible emotional weight and spiritual weight. And it's those issues that our testimony pointed out, whether it's unresolved problems with relationships, or it's our own character flaws that we have for a reason. And they probably helped us survive through a tough period in the past, but they're no longer working for us. And so when we look at the invisible weights and we work through it with God's help, the help of safe community, then we're better equipped to handle the visible weight.
I love that.
Yeah.
Chris, what would you add to that?
Yeah, it's really the important part that when we find ourselves with an issue, like let's say it is our relationship to food, our own weight, is that we're constantly focused on the external thing and then trying to make a behavioral adjustment. And it won't work because of what's called the rubber band effect. Your it is a rubber band effect. It will always pull you back and it's undefeated. You go to Lose It for Life and you'll learn how to cut that rubber band once and for all. So that you can have the momentum to move forward, to have sustainable health, recovery, and get to where you'd like to be.
Yeah, I love that. You know, we're going to do it. It's one day online, March 18th. And, you know, we are going to have Michelle Spadafora and Steve Arterburn is going to share. We're going to have our breakout groups led by our New Life counselors. It is going to be a packed day to help you unpack what those it's are that you're feeding, that you're, you know, not paying attention to. I just can't say enough. We've been doing it for 20 years. We've helped so many people lose the weight and keep it off and live into the life that, you know, God has created for them to live, to be free of those invisible weights. I love that word picture, Alice. We're going to be taking your calls, 1-800-229-3000, and we'll be back right after this.
We have been estranged off and on for 10 years or more, and he has a lot of grievances and anger and bitterness and hatred toward me.
Our daughter is the problem. She said, I don't want to be in your life right now.
Hi, Steve Arterburn here. Courageous Parents, Transforming Relationships with Your Adult Sons and Daughters. It's an online workshop with Dr. Jim Burns, Dr. Jill Hubbard, and me. I think it will change the way you see your adult children.
I was never prepared for doing life with my adult children. Some of our kids bumped and violated values that we never dreamed they would, and there's some principles that we can talk about.
With insightful teaching and the guidance of a credentialed New Life counselor, this one-day online workshop, Saturday, April 1st, will provide practical advice and hopeful encouragement for navigating the parent-adult-child relationship. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE to register or to find out more. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. It's Becky Brown with Dr. Alice Benton and Chris Williams, and we are taking your calls at 1-800-229-3000. We are going to start with Donna, who's calling us from Dallas, Texas, listens on KWRD. Terry, if you can, there you go. Hi, Donna. I'm so glad you called. How can we help you today?
Yes, ma'am. I have a question on how to deal with, I'm not sure if it's narcissistic rage or chemical dependency or a chemical imbalance. My husband of 11 years is now like violent. I say violent with like punching above my head, the wall above my head, the headboard, things like that, just blaming me for everything. We both have been depressed, lost a lot of loved ones, including both of his sisters and his dad. And then my nephew was killed in an automobile accident, and his brother, my other nephew, was driving. And we went through that at the same time, but yet I try to walk around on eggshells around him, and he just, everything's my fault. He tells me he doesn't blame me, my ex, for leaving me. He said, no wonder he cheated on you, or no wonder he left you. And he talks about his ex-wife. If it was her, she would have done that. She would have had enough courtesy to, do such and such for me. And I'm just scared. Every day I go home, I'm nervous. I'm scared. More of the verbal. It's really it brings me back to a time when my ex physically, sexually, verbally, mentally abused me, and I'm very depressed. I speak to a counselor. It doesn't help. I don't know what to do.
And Donna, Donna, you mentioned chemical imbalance. What's happening chemically with your husband that you're worried about?
He has lithium imbalance, and he's prescribed lithium, but he doesn't take it, or he hasn't been to the doctor because of his new job. He hates his new job. He's stressed out there.
And are you also worried he's using substances?
Yes, he admitted in the past he has used it. He said he's not now.
He used what?
He crystal meth and also Percocet, just things like that. And he, but now he said he's not doing that anymore. I don't see any signs of that, like any money coming out of the account or any,
Donna,
but it's also off his lithium.
It is a very difficult situation. Let's hear what Alice and Chris could recommend as far as getting into a better situation. Whoever wants to go first.
Yeah, so Donna, first and foremost, the lithium is typically prescribed for someone with a mood disorder. I obviously not either a psychiatrist nor am I your husband's treating therapist, so I couldn't say. But that when we follow that, and it typically is prescribed for people who struggle with some sort of bipolar disorder. With all of that said, and we can hear in the story there's a lot of trauma. I mean, there could be a lot of PTSD. So with the picture that's underneath it all, the behavior shows up very dangerous for you. And I'm really concerned. I'm so glad you called, first and foremost. I'm so thankful that you did. Because sometimes because we're creatures of adaptation, we normalize really, really dangerous behavior, or at least we minimize really, really dangerous behavior. Your husband is exhibiting very dangerous behavior that can be very unpredictable. And with a past struggle with methamphetamine use, with a past struggle of mental health issues, we don't want to play loose and fast with this because it could flip on a dime in the most traumatic way possible. And that is your very safety. And so I don't want to overstate it, but the worst thing I could possibly do for you today, Donna, is understate it. And so I am asking you to get yourself physically and emotionally safe today. Look for the resources around you with a clear message for your husband that the way you're talking to me, the way that you're outraging right now, that you're raging out into physical intimidation, if nothing less, is not okay. I'm not safe. I need some time to get safe. I need you to seek help to resolve whatever is going on inside of you.
And Donna, you might need to tell him that from a distance because he isn't physically or verbally safe. And so he might have a strong reaction to you setting a boundary and taking care of yourself. What's your reaction to Chris's advice?
I agree. I just know that after 11 years of marriage, he just started this 3 years ago, and it started when his dad passed away, and then it got worse when his sister passed, and then I was dealing with my nephew passing, but it went from my protector to the one that I fear.
Yes.
And like I said, it was just like the sweetest person, very protective of everyone, especially women. Thinking that a man that puts his hand on a woman is, sorry and everything else. But he's only put his hands on me, like shaking me a couple of times.
Donna, I'm gonna interrupt you to say, I hear your compassion overriding your radar that's telling you you're not safe.
Right.
But because you can understand his pain, some of your words are minimizing how dangerous he has been to be around. I heard you say just 3 years. He just put his hands on me. And that's making his boundary violation smaller. And it's trying to justify how big his anger is because he's in so much pain. You have a good heart, Donna. It's so good that you have compassion. But when your compassion overrides your radar that's telling you, I'm not safe. Every day I come home, I don't feel safe around this man. Your compassion can actually keep the two of you stuck in this dangerous pattern between you.
Well, and Alice, speak to the whole idea of just because you're getting safety, Donna, it doesn't mean the end of the marriage. You had also alluded to he's verbally abusive or emotionally abusive. These are all pieces and parts. But, Alice or Chris, just talk about how getting safe is one step. It's not the whole step.
Donna, it's actually the most loving thing to do for...
Pulled it beside me.
Go ahead.
He just pulled it beside me. He just pulled it beside me in the vehicle. So I'm going to have to go right now.
We ask that you please call us back as soon as you can. We want you to get safe, and we want to help you do that. We're going to be praying for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Donna, we'll be in touch. This is the cycle of domestic abuse and domestic violence. I just want you guys to talk more about the safety piece.
The key to the first step of safety is that the mind in a fear-driven, threatened, hypervigilant state cannot see clearly nor make good decisions. A line that I oftentimes say is, desperate people make desperate decisions, and those decisions are rarely good ones. And so we don't want to make, desperate decisions that, again, maybe resolve it in a moment or placate the problem that's continuing. When we get into a place of safety and our mind and our body is able to calm down, we're able to see a larger picture. We're able to hear feedback from others that could give us clarity on what's going on that informs better decisions. But to your point, Becky, is a lot of times in the abusive cycle, we'll return to a momentary safety, only to return to and be fooled that things are changed or things are different, and be what we actually call a honeymoon period, and be pulled right back into the cycle all over again. And so when we get safe, we must then seek counsel to make a very different decision for a very different outcome than the cycle of pain that we're in.
And Donna is correct. Her husband is in great pain, and he doesn't know how to handle it.
Yeah.
And so he probably might be turning again to substance use, to anger, towards aggression, to cover his pain. Every perpetrator has pain underlying their problematic and aggressive behavior. But when the scales over the eyes of the perpetrator are so thick because of substance use or denial or blame shifting, they need loss and consequences to have the potential for those scales to be removed from their eyes. And it's the temporary loss of a spouse. It's the temporary loss of the privilege of being in a warm relationship that can sometimes alert a perpetrator that they need to look at themselves, that they need to make a change. That's why consequences are loving.
And it can be really confusing too. What Donna was expressing was how it used to be. And, for a lot of people, we can rationalize the behavior. Well, this happened or that happened. But when it comes down to it, it is a safety issue. It is getting some framework around it so that the worst thing possible would happen. And just for the listeners, just know we will follow up with Donna and make sure that she's safe. That's very disturbing for somebody to listen to. And you may be the man that is in this story. You may be like Donna. And either way, there is hope and there is help to change this cycle. And Chris, you have something on your heart.
I'm chomping at the bit here because you just said it. You may be in the position that Donna's husband is in. So when we experience deep loss that turns itself into grief, that grief feels so vulnerable and it can feel out of control. And if we don't get what we need, which is comfort, which is guidance, which is love to help us move through that vulnerable state that feels out of control oftentimes flips from sadness to anger. Oftentimes many of us guys, it doesn't have to be men, but many of us people, we flip sadness to anger in an attempt to control the loss. The irony is that it spins us out of control.
Yes.
And what's happening with Donna's husband, then that person wants to control their outside world, including people, as a result of their internal out of control. The only way we get better, is to then focus on our internal out of control and do the work it needs to resolve that. And I mention that because that's what we're here at New Life to do. And if I could unashamedly promote, that's exactly what we're going after with the Emotional Freedom Workshop.
Right.
We'll look at it deeply at Lose It for Life. We're looking for that thing beneath the thing that spins our life out of control and start resolving that.
Right. And what happens when you are in that anger state and you're acting out, you're reacting, you then feel shame for the actions that you take. So then it is this never ending cycle. And it is so hard to recognize you're in pain.
Yes.
It's not because of something that, like what she was giving, all of the lists of things that he's going through or they've gone through, they do all impact us. But so many times the shame of the reaction will keep us locked into that reaction. And, again, we'll follow up with her. We want her to be safe, and we'll be praying for the whole situation. If you are in a situation like this, please call. You cannot imagine how many people have overcome these situations, and there's healing. And I just think that that's the hope. That's the promise. We are going to continue taking calls, 1-800-229-3000. We're going to talk to Ellen after the break. And, we have many different ways that you can listen to the program. And I've heard from so many people that they listen on the podcast, they listen on YouTube. We love our YouTube viewers. We love our podcast listeners, but maybe you need to share a show with somebody that needs a little hope and needs a little help in their lives. And, of course, we believe New Life can help you in lots of different ways. And we're there for you. You can give us a call. You can listen. You can share the show. But however you listen, make a point of sharing it with somebody today. We'll be back right after this.
For most of my life, I've been dealing with an opiate addiction.
Why is opioid addiction quickly becoming one of our nation's biggest killers? Maybe it's because it isn't only those who are addicted who are in denial.
We did what I see so many parents do, is it can't be an addiction. There's something medically wrong.
It's impossible to solve a problem when you don't know what you're up against, and families will try to find any explanation except the one that will put them on the right path.
Alcoholism and drug addiction is a family disease. It doesn't affect just the individual.
If someone you love is abusing painkillers, know what you're up against. It's time to admit it's addiction and seek treatment. Call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We have Christ-centered partner treatment centers around the country. Call 1-800-639-5433 or visit us online at newlife.com.
We just made a decision. We will do whatever it takes.
1-800-NEW-LIFE.
I was sort of vaguely familiar that the 12 steps had some origination in the Bible. I found Life Recovery, and one of the things I liked so much was that it had such a broad appeal. It wasn't limited to just alcohol or drugs, that it was addressing a wide range of problems.
At New Life, we believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience. There are life recovery groups all over the country. They take place online, in conference calls, and in person. And if there isn't one in your area, we can help you start one. We have startup materials, leaders' guides, CDs, Bibles, and more, all with discounts available for groups. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE and ask for Terry Ward. The 12 Steps have long been a great help to people in recovery because much of the 12 Steps' power comes from the fact that they capture principles in the Bible.
The 12 steps is really a pattern for all of us as Christians.
Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment, call toll-free 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. We're so glad that you have joined us today. It's me, Becky Brown, with Dr. Alice Benton and Chris Williams, taking your calls, 1-800-229-3000. And we're going to go to Ellen now, who's calling us from Manchester, New Hampshire, listens on Sirius XM. Hi, Ellen. Thanks for calling. How can we help you today?
Hi there. Thanks for taking my call. So I have a question about how to have big conversations with my spouse that has to do with unresolved issues of the past. He was a traumatized child. I didn't realize that until well into our marriage. There was a lot of, he's my second husband. There was a lot of raging and verbal abuse and emotional abuse. At one point, I had left. He had some emotional affairs. I'd go to couples counseling, but it never really got resolved. It was kind of like, okay, well, he really didn't do much, and I still have there was no remorse or no apology or anything like that. And things have calmed down now, so we get along fairly well, but I want to have that conversation because it blocks me from being completely open with him.
Yeah.
And that's a good question. That's a good question, Alan. Alice, do you want to start?
Ellen, your husband was willing to enter into therapy before. How do you think he would react to the request to try it again?
So when we stopped with this individual, I hope that going forward you'd be willing to go to therapy again, that you'd be willing to call this person. And he said, I can assure you that I will never pick up the phone and call him again.
Did he explain that?
No, other than I think that he just didn't think that it was like beating a dead horse, I guess.
And if you told him, I realize I'm still struggling with some of our history, and I'm having a tough time moving past it. I really want to be able to move past it, to clear that up so that we can have a good present and a good future together. Would you reconsider helping me get through this by joining with a different therapist? Would you try again with me to help me get better? How might he respond?
I'm actually not positive how he would respond. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure.
I'm glad you have a little doubt, Ellen. A little doubt is better than he'd give an absolute no. And what I have found is that when we make that kind of request more about me versus you haven't done enough work, you need to get back into therapy. Although that might be part of your thought process. When we take the load on ourselves a little bit of, I need more attention. I know you care about me. Would you be willing to try again for me, for the sake of our marriage? It makes it a more accessible invitation to the person receiving it versus putting them on the defensive.
Yeah, that's good. Chris?
Yeah, I just to piggyback off of that, Alice, I think that's really good because, Ellen, what I think would be helpful for you is to sit down and get on paper, get outside of yourself, how his emotional affairs have impacted you. And so you can get clear on, hey, here's what I'm carrying inside of me that's interfering with us in our marriage. I don't want to carry this weight. I don't want these barriers to exist inside of me that prevents us from moving forward in our marriage. And so would you be willing to help me work through these so that we can get to, because I love you, I want to be with you, and I want a better marriage. But there's these things inside of me I need your help with because they involve us.
Well, and I kind of wonder, Ellen, what kind of conversations do you guys have? Not the difficult ones, but like day to day. How do you connect with one another?
Well, there isn't a whole lot of connection, quite honestly. Both physically and, we talk about, might talk a little bit about politics or what's going on in town, but there aren't deep conversations.
So you're like roommates?
Kind of, sort of. We are intimate, but it's kind of feels like roommate, and I get a very visceral reaction when I hear like, okay, that I have to say that I'm really still struggling, and because it's anger.
Yeah.
I'm angry.
Yeah.
That he's not doing what he needs to do, and that I'm not important enough to do that.
Okay, that's what I want you to write down on a piece of paper, right? Because I'm angry, and Ellen, I'm gonna lean in just a little bit more on this. Because of his behavior, I believe I'm not important. I want to flip that on its ear. I wanted to say, no, I am important enough to be connected to. I am important enough to enjoy a deeper, more loving marriage. And I need you to get on that importance train with me.
Many layers here, Ellen. Right. And even though the issue of the emotional affairs is huge, there's a lot of other stuff. We're going to talk to you more about it after this break, so hold on. We're going to continue to take calls at 1-800-229-3000. But, connection and communication in marriage is challenging. And then when you have a breach of trust, it just creates this huge chasm that, it's very hard to cross, especially if there's not a rhythm of already present. But we'll talk more about that after this. we've helped a lot of people figure that out and have changed a lot of marriages because of it. And there's hope here. There's hope. We'll be right back after this.
It had become very apparent that some of the things I was involved with were taking over my life.
In today's world, men are barraged with inappropriate content and images all day, every day. Some say that certain behaviors are just no big deal. It's just part of being a guy. But it's simply not true. It's a battleground for every man, and the opportunities to fail are everywhere. New Life's Every Man's Battle workshop can help.
After 7 years, just one weekend, a completely changed man.
For over 20 years, New Life Ministries has been helping men regain their integrity and purity through their one-of-a-kind Every Man's Battle workshop.
He said, I think this is something that every man should go to. Married, dating, it was definitely life-changing.
Now the workshop is going to Washington, D.C., March 31st to April 2nd. Don't wait for him to call. To find out more, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE or go to newlife.com.
I just can't say enough of what New Life has done for our marriage.
1-800-NEW-LIFE.
I have given to New Life regularly because I have so many people that I am referring to New Life who so benefit from the ministry. I just can't imagine what would happen in my area if New Life wasn't available to us.
You can help New Life Live stay on the air by joining Club New Life today. When you sign up to support us monthly through Club New Life, we'll send you the new member thank you gift of all 8 100-day devotionals, including 100 Days of Prayer, 100 Days of Freedom from Depression, and 100 Days of Peace. There are also ongoing benefits like the monthly Club New Life CD or download, access to the Club New Life video library, quarterly resources, free shipping on purchased resources, discounts on workshops, and quarterly online meetings with Steve. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Support Club New Life, and together we can help hurting people find help and hope in life's hardest places. Call 1-800-639-5433 to join Club New Life today. We're glad you joined us for New Life Live. To be a part of the program, call 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. We are so glad you are with us today, and we're hoping to help you. We are talking to Ellen right now, who she and her husband have had some challenges in communication, to say the least. Alice, let's start with you. Let's follow up with, just that concept of how do we connect when we're so disconnected.
And Ellen, I'm going to both commiserate with you, and I'm going to challenge you because I care about you. In commiserating, I'm going to tell you that I experienced infidelity in my family of origin, and it left me with so much unresolved pain, anger, like you're feeling, and fear, and I didn't know how to handle it, so I just didn't talk about it. And what I learned later on in life that by avoiding it, I was making my own situation worse, and I was endangering my marriage as well. Now, you have every reason to be upset with your husband that he's not doing what he should be. I completely agree with you. It's just not a powerful stance to stay in if he's all to blame, even though he has majority blame, because you don't have power over whether or not he does what he should do. So here's where the challenge comes in, because although you and I have both been innocent victims of someone else's infidelity, we're innocent in that. And yet we've got to be the ones to take the reins in dealing with our own anger, our righteous anger that we have. But if we just sit with it for too long without talking about it or dealing with it, we're exacerbating our own problem. You're an innocent victim, but it's up to you and me to initiate doing the work on ourselves so that we can access more peace, even if our husbands or the perpetrators in our lives never do the work that they're supposed to do. Because, Ellen, that's where the secret power lies. When we get into therapy, even if our spouse won't, and we start to work on our anger and we work on forgiveness, we work on our avoidance, we become more assertive in making our needs known in a kind and gentle way. It gives us the best likelihood of our spouse starting to change as well.
Mm-hmm. And we're healing the wounds that are keeping us stuck. Chris, do you have a final word for Ellen?
Yes, and it just again piggybacks off of the great advice of Alice, and that is just in the world of recovery we say this, that resentment is drinking poison and expecting everyone else to get harmed. And so we really must resolve that one way or another. And so just deeper encouragement, get into the work, Ellen, and press in here. Press into your husband.
And there can be a multi-tiered approach to this, I'll briefly say, because it doesn't have to be therapy first. We want you to go to therapy. We think it's necessary, but it can start with, can we start having some real conversations together? Can we start talking about how we're actually feeling? And then it can move into, can we read How We Love? Can we start trying the comfort circle where we actually share our hearts? Because I think we're both disconnected. I think we're both lonely. Can we start talking about what's really going on inside of us? And therapy can be another tiered option in that progression.
Yeah, I love that. Ellen, we're going to send you a copy of How We Love, and I think that will get you. I also want to send her. I'm going to do a Steve move right now. I'm going to send her a copy of Rescued, and I think that will help her in this whole process. I just, it's hard when you have experienced betrayal and then try to reconnect without the other person doing their work. And that's what we're talking about. And we're hopeful that will help you. And maybe you'll join us at the Restore Workshop online in June, and you can check us out for more information about that.
Becky, Rescued is not a book we offer very often. Would you give just a quick description?
Well, it's by Shelley Martinkus, and it is a workbook to help women who are dealing with betrayal trauma and just, kind of working through the feelings. It's got a lot of question and answer. There's, it's a workbook design. It's not just reading. And so I think it's helped so many people. There's a lot of people that we offer that to, and it's been very helpful. So that's the synopsis. That's the thumbnail. We are going to go to our next caller, who's Samantha. She's calling us from Costa Mesa and listens on the internet. Thanks for calling, Samantha. How can we help you today?
Hi. Yes, I'm calling regarding, I'm just trying to formulate my question in a concise manner when I was listening to you talk to other people. I've had a series of both my husband and I have been in seminary, and I've always prayed for a ministry marriage. I always I didn't care whether if I was the pastor's wife or I did youth ministry and he did the senior pastoring. I didn't care. I just always wanted to be. I've always been involved in ministry ever since I've been in junior high. I've been in ASB, and I've just always been asking God, use me in any way. And then while I was working at a major church, I don't even care. God doesn't care about numbers, but I was injured in a severe car accident, and I should have died. But God has miraculously saved me, and I had a horrible heart torn. My main artery to my heart was torn, and I had a whole list of injuries. But God miraculously saved me and through this. And my little jingle of a line is saying that every testimony starts with a test, and greater the test, greater the testimony. And I've become a motivational speaker, and it seems like I was flying, greatly, and then I had to have numerous surgeries because I had pressure sores, and there's a whole story there. And one day I'll write a book, and I was writing a book and it got damaged, and that's another story. But through it, when I met my husband, he came from a bad background, but God transformed his family and him, and so he accepted me the way I was. I'm in a wheelchair, and not that I ever look down at my chair. I always say God uses this as a platform.
So how can we help you today, Samantha? You've got a pretty amazing story for sure.
But I felt like my weights were put on me when I got married, and I found out, even though I have psychology classes, you can't diagnose people, but I felt like there was a lot of baggage that was brought into our marriage. He comes from, he's like a child of an alcoholic, and my dad is that way too, but I see there's a lot of anger within my immediate family as well as, and so my question is, I have left my husband several times, not to divorce him, but just to say, this is not appropriate the way you're dealing with your anger, and I've come back because of my disability, and there's a sleep number bed here.
And Samantha, we want to help get you to your question so we can really serve you on this call. What's your question for us?
My question is more like, I don't know if my husband has chemical imbalance with, like, if he's been a pro boxer, or if I don't want to excuse too much, like, for example, he does.
So Samantha, would you ask us a how or a what or ask us a question like
how
that?
can I take care of myself without being enabling to him? I don't know
Good question.
how to differentiate that.
That's a good question.
All
right. Well, Samantha, let's answer. Let's get some forward. Chris, do you want to start?
Yeah, I think so. So, Samantha, you have a lot of voices going on inside of you.
Yes.
Right? I mean, the chatter that you were showing us was like, man, I think I counted at least 4 different voices that they're all debating each other. They're all asking for the top voice at the table. And there's a voice inside of you that spiritualizes things, right? It's just like, oh, we're going to avoid difficult things by quickly slapping a God label on it. And that sounds kind of harsh, but that's what one of the voices does. The other voice says, oh, well, this is what you wanted, so you got to deal with it. The other voice says, you're in a difficult situation. You have to stay in this. And then there's this other really impressive voice that says, you don't have to deal with people's dangerous and harmful behavior. And so what that creates inside of you is a lot of chaos that's going to lead to confusion. So I want you to stop figuring out your husband. And
there you go.
And I want you to be able to figure out what's going on inside of you and start addressing the fears head on. And with that really strong faith that you have, I don't mean to minimize that faith. That faith is really strong.
No.
Say, like, God, I'm inviting you into my fears. I'm inviting you into my pain. And it may take a while, but there is a solution, even in my disability, to find freedom from harm.
It's so powerful.
Yeah.
Samantha, hold on. We're going to come back to your call after the break. You're right. There is a lot there, Chris. But there's a way forward. We're so grateful for all of you who are listening and provide for New Life to be able to be here. We have so many donors. We have our Club New Life family that gives on a monthly basis. And if you join Club New Life this month, we'll give you a set of 8 devotionals, 100 days of freedom from all kinds of things. And we know that it'll bless you, but also your giving to the ministry helps us help other people, like our callers or like the folks that go to our workshops. But we'd invite you to be part of that giving family. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE and we'll show you how.
So much of the enjoyment in my life was centered on food, and I had to get away from that. I'm down 100 pounds now from what I was, and couldn't be asking for better. I'm getting ready to order my 3rd round of clothes.
You can lose weight and keep it off for life, but it involves more than just the latest fad diet or exercise machine. If the underlying emotional, spiritual, and physiological issues aren't addressed, the weight returns.
I had been this low before or lower, and everything that I lost came back and brought friends with them.
The Lose It for Life online workshop deals with all of these aspects with its intensive, comprehensive, and interactive curriculum. This online workshop features Zoom sessions presented by Steve Arterburn on Saturday, March 18th, plus 4 small group process sessions facilitated by a credentialed New Life Network counselor. And fitness expert Michelle Spadafora will lead exercise sessions. To find out more, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
I see a different person now than I used to see.
1-800-NEW-LIFE.
Hi, this is Steve Arterburn, and for over 34 years, New Life has been the most trusted name in Christian counseling.
I'm an addict, and I'm trying to get God in my life again.
Our Christ-centered treatment programs can help you break free to embrace all that God has for your life and your family.
I just want to thank you guys for bringing me to a relationship with Jesus.
There really is help for marital problems, depression, addictions, panic attacks, and feelings of hopelessness.
I came back with so many tools to help me prepare myself to fight this struggle and this battle that I have every day.
You can start living again today, living the life God intended for you. Help is available at 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
They did care, and they did follow up very lovingly. and it made all the difference in my life.
Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Someone who cares is waiting at the other end of the phone. God can open the door to a better tomorrow. Call 1-800-639-5433.
To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
And we are back, and we are talking with Samantha and just the challenges that life has presented to her. Alice, what would you offer to Samantha about, just moving forward?
Samantha, the phrase good and faithful servant came to my mind about you because since childhood you have been open to God's will, and I so admire that about you. And I think you are striving with everything in your being to be a good Christian ministry wife to your husband. So it has been so difficult at times in your marriage that you've left on multiple occasions. And a lot of us believe and have been taught, but we forgive and forget, right? We turn the other cheek. We go back again, 70 times 7. And it is true that we are called to forgive. And yet, if we forget what's happened and we re-enter the danger zone, we also sometimes enable unhealthy, immoral, evil, dangerous behavior to continue. So Samantha, I'm worried about you, girl, because I wonder if in an emotional and spiritual way you might be paralyzed by trying to be that good Christian ministry wife who always comes back no matter what. It was hard for us to get to your question because I think it's hard for you to know what you need. And my guess is that you need to be heard. Through extended listening, you need to be heard, you need to be understood, and you need to figure out what safety really looks like. Because you've had the courage at times to leave an unhealthy, a bad situation, whatever that's meant for you. And I wonder if you've forgiven and forgotten and come back too quickly before real change was made.
Well, I think it's also not so much not the courage. I have the courage because I know what God has done before, He'll do again. He still parts the Red Sea. He still raises Lazarus from the dead. It's just a different way.
And Samantha, I'm going to interrupt you to say that although God can and does do those things, He also allows your husband free will. And I suspect your husband isn't getting the help he needs to become the safe and healthy man that you need. So what I'd ask of you, Samantha, what I'd ask of you is that you enter into individual therapy if you're not already. You figure out what you need and you figure out how to ask for that from your husband with boundaries and limitations that keep you safe from going back too soon, whether that's emotionally or physically going back too soon.
Well, and I also would say, Samantha, here's the clarification though. Is when we connect with a counselor, we are able to work on the things that are buried. So it's not just a quick fix. But I also think because of your accident, you have been traumatized. And trauma can also create a lot of this kind of, just confusion. And, you've got certainty in your faith, which is fabulous. It really is. So we're going to connect you with someone who specializes in trauma repair as well. And hopefully as a couple, you can get in with a counselor. And we're going to send you a copy of Healing is a Choice. I think that'll be helpful. And, I just will be praying for you. And I know that it can be so overwhelming when all of these things are, just being a challenge. Chris or Alice, do you have any final words for Samantha?
Yeah, I just think that connecting to ourselves is really, really important. And that could be very, very difficult. And what I mean by that is that certainly God can perform miracles and has performed miracles. But we understand that miracles are a temporary fix, that are a sign. John says it really well. These are the Gospel of John. It is a sign that points to Jesus. It's not the thing itself. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think sometimes it gets confused here, because God is really interested in our transformation that isn't dependent upon the next supernatural miracle that comes along. That's a lottery ticket mentality that just doesn't work. What works is getting into the deep work inside of us that keeps us in patterns of pain and fear and just keeps us stuck. And so we work alongside of God as he performs his great work in and through us. But that participation is that, hey, I'm in this really difficult situation. What do I need to do and what do I need to look at that gets me out of a passive position into an active position that God meets us there?
That's right. I love that. That's good. All right, we're going to take a call. We're going to talk to Nancy, who's calling us from Adeline, Texas, listens on Sirius XM. We're continuing to take calls, so call us, 1-800-229-3000. We want to hear from you. Nancy, we've got some time at the end of this program, but real quick, do you have a question for us today?
I do. I have an older son who we raised him in a Christian home, and he had a really tragic first marriage. Then he didn't remarry, but he married a non-Christian. We love her very much and love them, but after their first child was born, our grandson, when he was 6 months old, we were told by our son, we're not allowed to speak the name of Jesus or say anything about our faith to his kids. And so we, of course, prayed and wept and cried out to God, and felt like both of my husband and I felt like our directions were to just love them unconditionally and let them see the love of our Savior without words about him. And we have done that for the last 3 years, but in this season we are feeling unsettled again. And I don't know, am I disappointing my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ by bowing to that, or am I doing the right thing?
Good question. Chris, do you have anything for Nancy?
My first initial reaction, it just went back to that line attributed to St. Francis of Assisi, which you guys have done really, really well. You've worked hard at, and that is always preach the gospel, only use words when necessary. And so we can see, let's take courage in this. There have been people in oppressed governments, in oppressed places where Christianity is not allowed to be openly talked about. Otherwise, your life or your freedom could be in danger. And ironically enough, throughout human history, that's oftentimes the place where the gospel has flourished the most. And so what I don't think Jesus is disappointed in one iota in your approach here. I think that this is a new level of faith to say that, Jesus, I am so excited to see how you're going to work without us having to say your name.
And Nancy, I would check, is God nudging you to take a slightly different approach, which may be checking back with your son. Hey, we've really tried to honor what you've asked of us. Can we get an update? Is your position still the same, or has it adjusted at all? Is there any openness to talking about God versus Jesus? We want to continue respecting, so let's just update where we stand with this. And then ask God how he wants you to creatively act out the gospel without using words, as Chris is saying. But does God want to update you? Does he want to give you a different angle of how to love on this family? You might also ask your son, what's the story behind this? What led to you disconnecting from God? When you're willing to tell us, we really want to hear that story.
Yeah, that is a great way to approach it. And, Nancy, the thing is, God loves your grandchildren even more than you do. And we can pray for, just how their lives will intersect with God. And as you pray and as your husband prays, you're right, Alice, it is that challenge to have that next conversation, not to corner him, but to just keep this adult conversation going. We're going to send you a copy of Doing Life with Your Adult Children by Dr. Jim Burns. This is not an unusual question. We've had this before. And, the goal would be to stay in relationship, to be honest about your relationship with each other, and at the same time, express the love of Christ in all the relationships that we have. Isn't that what we're called to do? We are going to continue to take calls for the next hour, 1-800-229-3000. If you're online, hold on, and we'll get right to your call. Thank you, Alice. Thank you, Chris. And thank you, listeners. We are so grateful for each and every one of you. If you need anything, give us a call. We are here to help you each and every day.
Thanks for listening. We hope this program has helped you by giving you insights for handling the challenges you face in your life. We want you to know that we're here for you, but you also need to know that New Life Live is a listener-supported ministry. To make your donation or to get any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433, or write to us at New Life Ministries, P.O. Box 1029, Lake Forest, California, 92609. Please join us again on Monday for New Life Live.
Hi, thank you for watching New Life Live. You know, New Life Live is a Christian counseling program where we deal with the hard questions about life, relationships, kids, free choice, freedom of will, whatever. It's all right there on New Life Live every day, every weekday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. If you want to call into the live broadcast, you can find the schedule on newlife.com or click the social media link right below. You can see every episode of New Life Live on the New Life YouTube channel. Watch it with a friend, watch it later. Be sure to subscribe and hit that bell so you'll never miss another episode. So if you want to listen on the go, download the app. The link is right below. And I hope if you need some information, if you want to get some help, you'll call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. And I'll see you next time.